Hello, everyone. You're listening to another episode of Let's Talk Sports with Tim McCain, and I have the pleasure of interviewing journalist, reporter, interviewer Mark Haynes from ClutchPoints. He also has a podcast coming out. What's your podcast called again, brother?
Well, I have a podcast. I got two. Well, one's a podcast, one's a YouTube video. The podcast is a Minute Till Six podcast with my co-host and friend Chris Perry, and then I have Year One, which is a YouTube show where I interview players about their rookie season and funny stories. It's a real fun one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. When did you decide that sports podcasting was for you?
So how it kind of started, it started through my brother, Chris Haynes, who's Yahoo Sports Insider. He started a podcast, and it was something we always kind of talked about, doing a pod together. And Yahoo gave us the opportunity to actually come on as like a second segment for his podcast. We'll basically get on and talk about whatever him and the player talked about or whatever, and break things down. So after that, I did about 10 episodes, I think, with that. And I didn't, I fell in love with it for one. And, I've always been a big fan of sports, play sports and things like that. So obviously you want to be involved in it still. And after that, I just told myself that, I don't want this to be it. I don't want, people to say, you only had this opportunity because, your brother is who he is. And, so I decided, I think it was about the 8th episode, I started planning on not necessarily a departure, because if Yahoo and them would have said, let's do this forever, I would have did it. But I started thinking for the future and started thinking like, I might have to do my own pod. And at that time, I didn't want to be the host. I enjoyed being the co-host or, the sidekick. And, that was kind of just my personality. And, so stepping out and doing my own pod was just like totally different. It was scary, but when I look back on it now, I'm really glad that I did it.
That's amazing. What was your earliest sports memory, and how did that earliest sports memory influence you for your love for sports?
It's crazy. My earliest sports memory is probably Magic Johnson. This is what pops up. This is what pops up. Magic Johnson, and I could be wrong. If I think about it, I probably could go further back. But Magic Johnson coming back after he, tested for HIV, and he coming back and playing in that All-Star game.
Wow.
It didn't when it first happened originally. I just thought it was just like amazing, that he's going through this personal, crisis. And then he's coming out here and playing in this All-Star game, smiles and still, looking healthy. And, frankly, like we all thought, especially at that time, we thought, he was going to die because, not being aware of or knowledgeable about, the virus and things like that. So just to see him, I remember thinking like, man, this could be the last time we see Magic Johnson, on a court or, healthy in general. And, obviously he's still living and doing great things now.
Yes, sir.
And as I became an adult, when I look back on it, I was just like, you could get through anything, anything that you feel is a problem, with the help of God, you can make it through anything. So that sticks with me, that resonates with me. And, I try to live by that.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Who are some of your favorite basketball players as well as sports journalists and have you taken any of those great sports journalists from the past and have implemented into your own sports reporting, your own sports news style?
Well, I start with the athletes. Magic was my first favorite player, and I'll stick to basketball for now. Magic was my first favorite player. From Magic, it went to Penny Hardaway.
Okay, nice.
From Penny, it was T-Mac, and now it's LeBron. So I it is those. I guess they all kind of similar, big guards, and so I guess that's my thing with that. And but when it comes to journalists, and I honestly I have to say my brother. I have to say my brother, even though I know it's a lot of great journalists out there, but I think I've been fortunate, and blessed to have who I think is the best out there, as a brother, and I don't take it for granted. I don't take it lightly. I'm he's helped me, especially since I got into writing recently. He's helped me a lot, with writing. But when I see him, me and my brother, when we were kids, we would play video games different from how everybody else played. Everybody else, you get NBA Live or 2K, and you just want to play. All right, I want to play with the Lakers. I want to play with the Bulls. I want to play with this. We would actually play on the same team and do a season. And when we do that season, between every game, if we're, the Miami Heat, I'll just go, the Miami Heat with the big three, D Wade, LeBron. If I'm LeBron, my brother was D Wade. And if D Wade had a good game, I was interviewing D Wade at the end of the game saying, hey, how'd you feel about that? We would create drama and stuff. We would say, hey, I was mad that LeBron didn't pass me the ball and blah, blah, blah. And we just, and people would come over and want to play the game, and it wasn't fun for us like that. So it was like, nah, I don't really want to play unless I'm playing, with him or by myself, because, we would do that between every game. And everybody would come over there, and my parents and, family, they'd look at us crazy, like, what are they doing? And this is in like the 90s. This is before video games is even, doing post game and interviews and all that stuff, contracts. Like we were thinking about all that around, 12, 15 years old or whatever. And, so like to see his journey, and he's had a similar journey to myself. To see his journey has been an inspiration for me, every step of the way. And when I see him on TV and things like that, I'm proud, and it's cool that I can just text him right after I see him come off of TV, and to have that connection. So my bias favorite would be my brother.
That's amazing. That's amazing. When you were explaining it to me, I was thinking about the evolution of the game. So you grew up watching the 90s. You were playing with your brother. You were playing basketball, video games with your brother. And I was thinking, okay, 90s basketball, the 2000s era basketball, which I grew up listening to because my favorite player was Shaquille O'Neal. Dominating the middle, and then obviously now in the 2010s to the future, to the present, we see the evolution of the basketball. Someone as a fan, as an analyst, journalist, what are your thoughts on the evolution of the game now from the time that you grew up watching it to what it is presently?
And I love the evolution, and I get in tons of arguments about, just the evolution of the game and the skill level and how advanced the game is now. It's not a video game. So in a video game, you could take, I'm probably gonna get in trouble. So you could take, John Stockton. I'll use John Stockton. People won't get mad at me for using him. You can take John Stockton and put him on the Brooklyn Nets now, the 2021 Brooklyn Nets, and John Stockton would be great. He'll be amazing with them. But in real life, you can't take that same John Stockton and put him in today's game. Now, without training, without practice, anything, you just think, what I'm saying? Obviously, if you grew up in this era, he'll adapt because he's exactly. But you can't just do like a video game and take that stock and put them here and expect them to be good. Because like nowadays, the players from 1 to 5, it almost isn't a 1 to 5 anymore. This position,
exactly.
They're all like Jokic is the point guard. You know, he brings the ball up. You know, he's the facilitator. Same with Golden State and the Warriors and Draymond Green. He's technically the point guard if you want to, you know, give it a position. And now it doesn't matter how tall you are, you know, how short you are. You have to be able to do everything. You have to be able to just play basketball. And that wasn't the case back in the day. Even though like I said, I love the progression, but I think my favorite still probably is around like, you know, the 2000 to 2010. I think that was my favorite era. Even though I understand that this era is so much more advanced.
Right.
Yeah, they're better than those guys were, you know, but it's only because they've seen these people. Like, all right, here go another one. Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Michael Jordan, all the acrobatic, you know, dunks and layups that we seen, he didn't practice those. He was just trying to survive and score a bucket. Mm-hmm. Like he had all the flipping and stuff, the reverse layups. He didn't reverse layup because I'm gonna do a reverse layup. He did it because the bad boy Pistons is coming with elbows and he's ducking and maneuvering and getting it up. Now guys are planning that. They're practicing up and unders. They're practicing all those moves they seen Jordan, Kobe, and guys like that do. So they're able to perfect that, even though it was, you know, originated by Jordan, who was doing it off of just pure talent. It wasn't something he practiced.
That's interesting. So then my question then adds up. So this is my question then. Okay, so you said that today's players will be better than the 2010. So let's say we put Shaq against Joel Embiid, or a Tim Duncan versus a Giannis, or Kevin Garnett against a Giannis. Who wins those matchups and why? See,
and then with that, I love it. I love it. But with that, I would have to go, because it's always context in it. Okay. And it really, in my opinion, will depend on who's refereeing. Which are we taking today's ref, or are we taking, you know, the 2000s ref? So it's either way, though, like Shaq, Duncan, Garnett, dude, these are all-time greats. Like, they'll figure out a way immediately, you know, how to make an impact. So when it comes to like Joel Embiid, Joker, Giannis, man, that's tough. That is tough, because these are really, really good dudes. And absolutely, like it's hard to say because they're still getting better. You know, we've seen Shaq, we've seen KG and Duncan at the top of their game. But I don't know if we've seen the top with these guys. You know, like if Giannis develops a jump shot, you know, then I'm probably taking him over everybody.
He's like Wilt to me in a lot of ways. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? How athletically gifted he was. If people taught Wilt to dribble the ball up the court, that's what Wilt Chamberlain would be like. And just for people to know, Wilt Chamberlain already was kind of like that. Looking at his stats, he was like that. But just imagine if he didn't have to depend on a point guard to dribble up. If he actually could dribble the ball, how effective Wilt Chamberlain would have been in that era as well.
Yeah, it's, you know, like it would have been crazy. We wouldn't be talking about a GOAT debate with LeBron and Jordan. It would have been Wilt.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What was it like?
But let me pick one. If I was going to pick, if it was a tournament of one-on-one with all those dudes,
yes,
I'm going a prime KG, man. I love me some KG. I'm going to prime KG, that Minnesota Timberwolves MVP KG.
Over Shaq?
I'm if it's all post up, I'm giving it to Shaq. But if we can't just post it, if it's just, and if we got Shaq's just up there. That's the thing. But I'm still Shaq is Shaq. I'm still picking KG.
Respect. Hey, respect. I love KG's game. I remember him being in Minnesota. And I was like, man, that dude, he's something special. So I remember that. My earliest memories was during those early time periods of seeing how great some of those power forwards were. And I was a Kevin Garnett fan, Tim Duncan fan, but my favorite, I always got picked Shaq. I say Shaq beat all these guys. No disrespect. I think they give him work. Yeah. I think they give him work. But I think that Shaq. What do you say?
Yeah, I said they can't miss. If they miss Shaq, it's over.
It's over.
So yeah,
yes, sir. Yeah.
So scratch Shaq. I'm taking KG, but yeah, Shaq is the obvious. Yeah.
Respect. What were you going through emotionally when you got the call from ClutchPoints to be a journalist for their organization, for their company?
Man, look, I'm gonna start at the very beginning, and because we developed a really good relationship over the last 2 years or whatever. And originally, like I said, I was with Yahoo, and I'm in my mind, I'm preparing to have to leave at some point and do my own thing. And they reached out to me the first time they reached out to me, but in honesty, they really just wanted my brother. I was the go-through person, but it was to get to my brother. And I was cool. I understood that at that point I had no experience, with podcasts. I had no experience with writing or, anything. I'm just completely, raw. So I understood it. And Chris is, contractually can't do, certain things or whatever. So it didn't work out. And it disappeared. And I started my own pod with my boy. And a few months after that, they reached out to me again. It was like, hey, would you be interested in, doing some things with us? And I'm like, yeah, I would. And from there, they took over on helping, produce the podcast. They gave us, we had a studio out in LA that was just dope. I miss that place, man. The pandemic messed it up, but yeah. So we went out there, recorded, and produced everything. Everything was like just top notch. And from there, it's been just such a great experience and a blessing. Like literally everything, that I need or, to help me be better. I'm there, the owner, Nish Patel, he's a phone call away, and they answer my phone calls. They hook me up with whatever I need. And then as we switched over to doing the year one podcast, which is fun. And then it was like, I think Nish reached out to me and he was like, we want to take your career. We want to try to get your career to go to the next level. And it's like, in order to do that, like, we think you should cover, an NBA team or whatever and write. And, my writing experience was new. I'm, rookie to it or whatever. So, but I understood, in this whole process, I figured out that sometimes, doing what you want could get in the way of where you need to be. And I felt like, even though when I look, I'm my toughest critic. And I feel like my career should move faster, even though most people see what I'm doing and they say, "Oh, dude, you're flying. You're doing like it took me, 5 years to even, get here or whatever." And I'm just like really that hard on myself. Like I act like my mindset is always like I'm not making any ground. Even if I am making ground, I don't really pay attention to it. Like, Steph Curry said in an interview recently, he was like, about his 30-point streak, he was like, I don't look, I know I did something amazing, but I don't really look back at it. He was like, I'm always looking at what's next or whatever. So I kind of, take that mentality with this. So I have to stop myself and appreciate, where I came from in the journey. But they was like, yeah, we want to get you to cover a team, and there's like we're reaching out to the Golden State Warriors and to see if you could be one of the beat writers out there. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I've always been kind of reluctant to being a writer. But then I understood and, talked to God and talked to my family. And I was like, man, this might be what I need to do. And like I said, I seen my brother, he had to start writing. And I was like, you know what, let's do it. And it was like, whatever you need, we'll help you out. Feel free to, call, you have an editor and da-da-da-da. So it's, it's been great. And so far, I'm about 3 months into covering, the Warriors, and man, it's been a blast.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What has been your favorite interview of the Warriors so far? Because you've had several of them. If you have one, what's your favorite interview of a Warriors player or coach?
Man, that's a good one. Because it's like, getting to talk to them like every day. I actually enjoy best the moments of the bloopers, my whether it's my blooper or the players, and I think they're kind of getting like learning my style or whatever, because I tend to ask questions that it's sometimes it's a good question, sometimes it's a bad question or whatever, but I tend to ask a question like, for instance, the other day, Steph, what did Steph do? Steph, somebody said something about Steph. If it comes to me, I'll use the exact. Somebody said something about him. And I'll usually start off, letting them know, like, yeah, such and such said this. And they'll automatically think, like, here we go. And like Steph, he'll drop his head, he'll look away, like, here we go, whatever. And then when I ask the question, it's like, oh, that's a good question. So now, like, I've been doing that like every day. I do it to all of them too, and I think they kind of starting to understand it. So now they don't really give me that big of a reaction. But I remember the first time I did it to Steph, he really he looked like he wanted to walk off when I started my question, and then when I actually threw the question out, he was like, "Oh, all right, yeah." Then he gave me a good answer, but yeah, I enjoy that. And then there was a time with Draymond where my Wi-Fi like cut out on me, like mid talk.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, it's Draymond," and and he's like, "I can't hear you." He's like, "I don't know." So like, just those moments right there. Those are memories that I'm always remember, especially being this my first year.
Yes.
And, so I really cherish those moments, and like I'm not afraid to show people my flaws and my imperfections, and me messing up. Like even with all my podcasts, a lot of podcasters, which is cool. They'll mess up or maybe stutter on a question, and when they go and edit it, they cut it out. I'm like, no, it's cool. Like, I'm human.
That's right.
I don't think I'm the greatest. I just think I'm me, and nobody else can be me. And that's just how I look at it.
And that's your superpower when it comes to being right. You.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so beautiful, because like for me, I have a certain process on how I interview. I'm more of an interviewer. I do podcasts and I talk about sports, but I'm more of an interviewer. So when you actually have to go to these Warriors players or these Warriors coaches and you ask these questions, what is your interview process like? Where did you and when did you feel comfortable and confident in your interview process?
it's, since things are all on Zoom, it was like now Zoom was like a total reset. And it was like I started all the way back over. I was super uncomfortable. And I remember the first question, I don't even remember what it was, but I asked Steve Kerr. He was the first person I asked something. And I asked Steve Kerr about Steph and Draymond relationship or something like that. And man, like my heart was beating in my throat. Like I don't know how I got it out. And then in my mind, I'm like, I've talked in person. I've talked to LeBron. I've talked to Durant. I've talked to Steph. I've talked to Curry. I've talked to, all these, superstars already, and I've never felt like that. And then the just on Zoom, I don't know what it was at first, but doing it on Zoom, doing it on a huge stage, platform like the NBA or whatever.
Yes.
The nervousness just hit. And I somehow got the words out. And I don't know how to this day. God had to do that. But when I got back comfortable, like I started focusing on, like we talked about earlier, me, what type of questions do I want to know as a fan, and as an interview, like, so, because I always want to create, interesting content or things that I think that are interesting. So, a lot of times, the guys, the other beat writers that ask questions about, Steph scored 32 points last night. What do you think about Steph? And in my mind, I'm like, well, I know he thinks Steph is amazing. I know the world seeing Steph score 32 points. I don't want to ask you that. I don't want to ask you that. I want to ask you, about shots that, matter of fact, that was the question I asked her. I want to ask you, when the crazy shots that Steph take, do any of them ever make you cringe as a coach? Like, because for anybody else, it's a bad shot. So I'm always, trying to think of something specific, to ask about something you just may wonder. The average fan, may want to know about, a player or a coach. So I try to keep my style personal to whoever I'm talking to. And which takes a lot, like, as you know, as an interviewer, you have to do your research on people. And, the Warriors have a lot of, like, I remember the first day that I covered them, Mike Mulder had a really good game. I remember that. And I recognized him, but I didn't know him by name. So when he came to the interview, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is him. I know this is the guy that made this play that I want to ask about. It was a specific play where he kind of, Steph was open and he was open too, and he faked the pass to Steph and took the shot and hit it. And I wanted to ask him, his confidence, what gives you that confidence to do that? But I was like, was it Mike Mulder or Mulder or whatever? So, like, you have to be really prepped going into interviews, especially like when you're interviewing a bunch of different people. Like, I don't know the guy from Denver, the point guard or whatever. I don't know his name, but I know his plays. So I wouldn't ask him the question that I want to ask him simply because I do my research out of respect for the player. So as an interviewer, which a lot of people don't get. A lot of people don't get that these players deserve your respect. They deserve your professionalism, and they deserve to be treated just like Steph Curry, LeBron James.
Absolutely.
Even if they don't. So I always, whoever I talk to, I always try to make sure, I know a little something about them. And when you do, it helps you, it helps your interview so much. Because yeah, we could go find somebody outside right now and ask them some questions, but it's not gonna be the same if you know a little bit about that person.
Absolutely, agreed. So when it comes to the art of asking a question, do you also do some outside research outside of just prepping for the player? Do you like, for me, I always do things like the art of the conversation. Like I look up videos on like how to converse with people. Do you do that yourself? And my next question also is, when it comes to the integrity of a sports journalist, everything in social media, there's so many different websites and links, and as a journalist, what are your thoughts on sports journalism integrity and making sure your points are always accurate in an age where information is just endless?
Yeah, man. So those are two great questions. The first one, I look at I look at other interviews, especially if it's something I know I'm gonna write about. I know this is what I want to do, so I look at other interviews, maybe it might be another player that was involved or another person or team, and I just try to figure out what I could find, maybe a quote, maybe something that was said, to ask, is this true? To like I say, to keep everything more personalized, and the player, coach, or whoever you interview, they respect you so much for doing that. And that's how later on you build relationships with them on personal levels, or they give you, exclusives that they wouldn't give, the ordinary person who just asked the regular questions. Because, obviously you can ask them anything when you got them for an interview. And they're going to give you whatever type of answer they want to give you. But, I feel like because I'm, doing my research, whether it's on them or outside as well, they're starting to, I'm earning their respect. And, earlier in a few months ago, when they might have gave me a shorter answer, I feel like I'm always getting long answers. And somebody, I don't know if it's true, but I hope it is, because it's cool. But somebody had wrote me after I had posted a video of James Wiseman answering my question. And it could be just him, but he was like, yeah, every time James answers your question, he always say, yeah, Mark, blah, blah, blah. He always say your name. And I was like, I wonder if he's doing that on purpose, but I'll take it either way. And then for the second question about, having integrity as a journalist, and having all these different outlets, all these different, aggregator sites and Twitter, man. Twitter is so profound and is so great and probably equally bad. So I hate Twitter so much. Like I struggle with Twitter, man. I like Twitter. When it comes to writing and stuff, Twitter has been the hardest thing for me. Like I'd rather write an article than do a 2-sentence tweet, because it's like you have to put context into what you're saying to make sure you're quoting these guys right. Because if you say something, if you put something out there that's wrong and it takes off, that could be really bad, especially like a person like me just getting into the field. That could be detrimental, to my career in the future. It's like, oh, this guy's putting out, junk or whatever. And so that's really, tough. And a lot of junk gets out. A lot of people use Twitter just to say, hey, such and such said this. And it could be completely wrong. And it'll take off over the world, and millions, thousands of people will see it. And that person will get a lot of acknowledgement, a lot of attention, as if they're a professional. So it's a lot of guys like that have way more followers than myself or somebody that's been in the business, longer than me. But they have way more followers. And then when I look at it, I'm like, you're putting out, false narratives, all the time. Like, and like me and my brother talk about that a lot. We're like, that's not real, journalism. Like, you have to have integrity what you do. So like transcribing, what people are saying and painting the right picture, when you're creating articles or creating a tweet, it's super important and it's super scary because, the players, when you're talking, you can say something that you didn't really want to say. And then it's like, but you said it. You actually said it. And I just wrote it how you said it. So you have to like, it's a fine line. You have to like figure out, like sometimes it's like, all right, I need to leave that part out because I know he didn't mean that. He didn't mean it this way. So I'm gonna put it how he meant it, or I'm gonna stay away from it. But a lot of people see like, like if Steph says something like, I don't like LeBron James because he can jump higher than me. Somebody may tweet Steph Curry on LeBron James. I don't like LeBron James. That's going viral. Not because he can jump higher than me. Not because he's funnier than me. I don't like LeBron James. That tweet is going viral. And that's not journalism. That's, doing things without integrity.
Absolutely. I think that's so key. I think a lot about what sports journalism is what you were saying. In a sense, is what you're saying is protecting the athlete. You know what I mean? Especially if a question, if like you're saying, if a statement is made when you're like, maybe we should cut that part out. How key is that not only for the player, but for you yourself as a sports journalist to make sure that you have that integrity and that you protect the player, especially if sometimes the words might not always come out right.
It's super, super important, super key. I probably overstress about it. When I'm writing, I had one incident. It wasn't an incident. It was. I messed up, but the player and his team, they didn't really, it wasn't a big deal. But Baron Davis, when he made comments about, he said that the Believe team would have took the Steph and KD championship team. It would have took them to 7 games. And when I said it to Steph, I said that he said he would have beat them in 7 games. And just that one word. And in my head, I was like, I said it already. And I kind of froze up on correcting it. And I was like, oh shoot. And I know Baron Davis, his people, his management team and stuff. So like immediately I texted him. I was like, yo, I'm sorry that I accidentally misquoted him, blah, blah, blah. And it ended up not being a big deal or whatever. He laughed about it. He thought it was funny. And but it's it's key because like it's guys out there who have the reputation of purposely misquoting or creating these fake narratives. Yeah. And they're not respected by the players. And you'll see teams, you'll see players, avoid them.
Absolutely.
And they won't they won't allow them, to cover teams and, get credentials and things like that. So, it's very important, especially like for up and coming reporters, like
yes,
and trying to get into it. You never want to, even though like clickbait, I understand how much attention it'll get you and stuff or whatever, but you really want to, like, my Twitter followers, it's trash. I don't even think I ain't got 1,000 followers yet, but I continue to, do it the right way. I'm not trying to, grab everybody's attention with being fake. I'm just, trying to be true to journalism. I'm trying to be true to myself and the players.
Absolutely.
So, everything else will fall into place. But, the world now and with social media, we love drama so much.
It's crazy.
That, look how big, no disrespect to them, but look how big TMZ Shade Room, all that. Like those are the biggest sites because it's entertaining. It's entertaining. But when it comes to, dealing with athletes and professionals, I gotta come see them, every day. Like I can't, you can't spread rumors, but people will. People will spread rumors. I've seen guys that's popped up in the Zoom meetings and put out some junk. And next thing I know, they never ask a question again.
Wow.
They just there and stuff. So it's that, like, having integrity in the business will get you a long way. So it's that might even be the most important thing about sport journalism.
Yes, I completely agree. What's the greatest piece of sports journalism advice that you've gotten from your brother? And also, what's the greatest life lesson that your brother has taught you about life as well?
Let's see, the greatest. Just being careful. Being careful with not being careful and being patient. Being patient for your opportunities. Don't think, you have to, have the best article out every day. Don't think you have to ask the best question every day. Allow yourself to be, special in you and yourself. And
Wow.
when you have a question, that's when you ask. But if you don't have a question, don't because it's sometimes where, which I told him, I was like, some guys would come up and I didn't have a question for them or whatever. It'd be like, niggas even had, which was odd. It happened with Draymond. Usually everybody got something to say to Draymond, but he came and he sat there, and I didn't have a question that day. And he sat there and he was looking. Nobody's talking. And then I'm like, I'm like double dutching, thinking about asking some random question, but I'm like, I don't have a question. And then somebody else did, and it went on. And but you don't want to just do things just because. You want to do things with purpose and with meaning. So that was probably the best advice so far he gave me, just being patient. And life lessons, I would say probably just him telling me not to be afraid to jump into something new. And you're going to be, when you jump into something new, you're going to be bad. And don't let that discourage you from improving, because he wasn't, who he was at, 10, 15 years ago or whatever. You can develop at any age. At any age, you can develop into more. And yeah, he just told me not to, he's like, I know this business can be scary and intimidating or whatever, especially my first game I covered was Sacramento Kings and Memphis Grizzlies in Sacramento. And he kind of, it's weird. It's weird. I'm not sure if you ever covered a game or whatever, but you get credentials, right? And they let you in the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just in the arena.
Yeah.
There's nobody, and I'm not knowing this, and I'm calling Chris, and I'm pretty sure he purposely didn't answer the phone. I'm like, where do I go? So I'm just sitting around looking, and I'm waiting for somebody to say, oh, media, come this way. And people just walk by, and then finally the security guard, a girl walks, and she's like, do you need help? And I'm like, yeah, where did the media go? She was like, oh, you got to go down to the basement level and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh. So then I get down there and, I find the room. I find it, the interview room, but it's not interview time. And now I'm like, when does this happen? Like, so I'm walking around, and next thing you know, I'm on the court, and I see Bobby Jackson, which I had him on my pod, so I seen him, I felt comfortable.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go sit down on the court, talk with him, and and then I'm sitting there, and then Chris texted me. He was like, yeah, he was like, you in the interview right now? And I'm like, no, I'm sitting on the court with Bobby Jackson. And he was like, you do know the interview started at 4:15. And I'm like, how am I know that? And it was like, if the game starts at 7 or whatever, the interviews are at 5:15 and 5:30. And you just have to know. It's no itineraries, no, nothing.
Absolutely.
So then I finally figure out that, and it was fun. It was super fun. I didn't ask no questions because I'm walking in late, and but it was just fun. But like, me and him, I get it from him, and watching him is, we're fearless when it comes to just asking questions or doing things. Like, I've, even before, getting into sports journalism, I did like club promotion and stuff like that. And I've connected with so many people that I had no business connecting with. Just because I try. I'm pretty sure I'm sending informal emails to people and stuff or whatever. And like, my friend always be like, yeah, he'd be like, you bump into all kind of people and opportunities and stuff. What you do? Like, how you do it? And I just be like, man, I don't care. I'm not afraid of anybody telling me no. Like, no, you tell me no, I'm going to say thank you. And I genuinely mean that, because you could have just ignored me. But the fact that you telling me thank you is, for me, it feel like you respect me as a person, and, maybe things can change or whatever. If you gave me a reason, no, that's even better. But yeah, I've never been afraid of anybody telling me no.
That's key. I think that's key, because as a sports journalist myself, I've heard, I would love to tell you some of my story after this interview about some of the stuff that I've experienced, and I understand that no part, that thing is real for the listeners. That is real. Being able to okay. So my question to you is, when did you realize that those no's weren't just that? Okay, how can I say this? How did you as a reporter realize, even with those no's, that doesn't mean that you can't keep going forward in your career? That those no's, you still can, even with those rejections, you still can move confidently. When did you know, hey, look, these no's, it doesn't matter, you keep moving forward?
Funny, I came into it with that already. But the way I figured that out, because it's the same way in life. And the way that I figured that out was probably junior, senior year in high school. And it was with girls. It was with girls. I liked all the girls, like, especially at that age, you like this girl, then the next week you like that girl and that girl. And I would try to talk to all of them.
Yep.
I would try to talk to all of them. And
yes, sir.
Most of them, they'll say, this girl say no, this girl say no, this girl say no, but she'll say yes. And then you keep, if you get enough no's, you're gonna get more than enough yeses.
Absolutely.
So when it came to, turning that, like, it took me a while as an adult to turn it into business. But when I realized that it's the same, philosophy, it's like, if you ask enough, somebody's going to say yes. Somebody is going to like you, whether it's a girl or dude, whatever, liking you or whatever, or it's a business, opportunity where somebody, a business says, I want to work with them. Just like I have a deal with a sponsorship deal with Fit Mind Wine, and I've emailed hundreds of companies and talked to hundreds of companies about doing things, and they were somebody I didn't think they would want to, and they love me. They're a great company. They help out tremendously with me and my family, and it was just off of just asking. You know, it's just asking. If they said no, you can't take it to heart. You know, if a company or a player or anybody says no, you can't take it to heart, because you never know. That same person that said no, you know, they'll come back. It may be no for a reason. Maybe no because I'll be on vacation that day you're asking.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
6 months. I think when Al Harrington, I bumped into him at Baron Davis, his charity basketball game, Black Santa game. And I bumped into him and I asked him, you know, hey man, I'm Mark Haynes. I would love to, you know, get you in the studio and interview you, blah, blah, blah. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So I'm like, cool. And then about a week or two later, I emailed him, and then it was like, this is my manager. My manager is gonna say, and I'm like, dang, or whatever. But you still got to go through the process, even like, because a lot of times when you get that manager after you talk to them directly, that's a no. A lot of times, but you still got to follow the steps. So I continued to talk with, I forget her name, but one of the managers, and 3 months later, we set it up. You know, we got a date. Got him. It was a great interview, and it's just, you know, you can't. I could have easily looked at it and said, "Oh, this was a no." You know, this is a no, or a person told you no, and then do it later. You know what I'm saying? So you just gotta, really just roll with the punches, really. And that's how I look at no's, and I like me. Yeah, that means you acknowledge me. Like, it's players I DM'd, and the Instagram show you if people read it. So you 16, and it's like, dang. But when they say no, it's like, all right, cool. Hey, thanks. Thanks for even acknowledging me. Blah blah blah. Maybe in the future we can, because you never know. Just you saying thank you and I appreciate you. They may say, you know what, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Because it can happen. So you just never know.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. In this interview, you mentioned God a lot, and I want to ask you this question: how has faith impacted you as a man and as a sports journalist?
Man, like, my faith in God has been monumental, just in my life in general. Like, man, I had, just in this journalism, it's getting into sports journalism. The last 3 years has probably been not probably. The last 3 years have been the toughest years of my life. Like, I've been basically homeless, with the family, with the wife and kid. I've been basically homeless, not as in the street, homeless, but having to live with other people. I've lost jobs through layoffs and things like that. I've had cars repoed. I've had $0, with the family, with the family. So, like, my wife, she's a sign. Her and my son is a sign from God that, God loves me and cares. Because when I look at her, I'm like, man, this woman crazy for sticking with me through this, but she's, been a big motivation for me to us to work together to get out of that situation. But the whole time, every time, like, I felt like I had nothing, God figured out a way to provide me with it. And I knew it was God, because it was situations where it's like, man, I can't do nothing. It's nothing I can do to fix this problem. And then boom, it gets fixed. Now, it didn't just take me out to, where I'm good, but that problem's fixed. It's like, I had a good friend of mine and a business partner. She's like my sister. Her name is Serena. And her husband, Quincy Miracle, is a professional soccer player. They they didn't even hear. They just kind of like, and I'm a person, I don't really explain my struggles. It's actually my first time even talking about this in an interview, period. But I'm not a guy that if I'm having a bad day, I'm not gonna show you I'm having a bad day, because I don't want you to have a bad day. Like, my problems aren't your problems. And but I guess she just noticed, like, you know, kind of what we was going through, and she messaged me one day and was like, "Do you need anything?" I was like, "What you mean?" And she was like, you know, like, whatever, you know, we family. If you need anything, let us know. And they offered us to come stay with them for a while in San Jose, and it was good. It was, you know, it was mutually beneficial for us to be there. She had a young kid, so we helped, we helped as we can and stuff. But yeah, God just, he just kept his hands wrapped around me, me and my family through the entire journey. After a while, I stopped worrying. And even now, I don't worry much, because I'm like, whatever's gonna happen, and it can be fixed. Anything can be fixed. Back to what we were talking about, Magic Johnson or whatever. Like, it doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean through. Like, right now, I'm out. I'm clear of that situation. I'm on my feet. I got multiple streams of income now, and I'm still constantly every day asking God for more blessings, not in a selfish way, but I just, I want to be in a position where I can bless others. And, and it's been, I can't, we could go on, but God and my faith it's been tested. It's been tested through these 3 years, and it's gotten stronger as well.
That's amazing. I think people need to hear those stories, because so many people go through it, and for people to see, and that's one of the reasons why I interview athletes, I interview coaches and all this stuff, so I can get their personal stories to inspire others, and no matter what situation people get through or get to, you can overcome those situations, whether it be faith, whether it be perseverance. For me, it's faith. For me, it's faith in God as well. And so I believe, when athletes, when reporters, when coaches tell these stories about overcoming personal adversity, it's needed in today's society. And so I appreciate those words, and I appreciate your story, because people need stories like that so they can overcome their issues.
Yeah,
I think it's key.
Absolutely, man. It's I'm obviously, we're all living, we're a work in progress, and I'm not the holiest of holies, but I know God is on my side, every step of the way, no matter what I do, whether it's, I try to pray every day, whether it's, thanking God or asking God for forgiveness. It's usually one or the other. And I just try to, keep going, keep moving, and, be a blessing whenever I can be a blessing. Because, that's really when it comes to the end goal of what I want for my life, for my career, is I want to be able to be in position to bless, other people with opportunities or knowledge or, whatever, that I'm able to give. So
absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. What are your personal keys to success, and what advice would you give to a young journalist like myself who's started this thing about 2 years ago? What advice would you give to a journalist like myself?
Keep going. Don't quit. Like, literally, you only fail if you quit, if you give up. If you keep trying and, it's just not happening, that's not failing. Failing means you can't go. So as long as you can go, long as you're able to, physically, mentally do it, keep doing it, because eventually you're going to succeed. Now, we're not talking about failure because you kept going. That's all it is. Just like I'm sure you've seen the meme where it's the miner and he's, chipping away for gold. And it looked like he got one more, swing and he's there. But he stops. Your goal didn't go no further. The goal is still there. It's just, it might have been a longer journey than you thought. And that applies for sports journalism. That applies for school. That applies in life. You don't fail until you give up. So I think that's the biggest advice and the message I want to give to, any and everybody who has a goal in life that they're trying to achieve is don't give up, because giving up is the only form of failure.
That's beautiful. Where can the people find you on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and how can the people find your stuff on ClutchPoints?
All right, so you can find me on, let's see, I just changed my handle. My Twitter handle is Mark Haynes NBA. And I'm about to switch my Instagram handle too. But my Instagram handle is Mark Haynes 33. So I might as well switch them both to NBA. But if you type in Mark Haynes, I should pop up. If you Google Mark Haynes ClutchPoints, all my articles and podcasts and interviews and things like that should pop up. You'll see ClutchPoints post a lot on their actual page. So I'll pop up here and there on their page, but they do post a lot. But that's just ClutchPoints or Warriors Nation CP. Podcast. I'll start filming again in the summer, a minute till 6. Some more episodes of year 1 will be coming out soon. Working on some things, and but I'm mainly on Instagram and Twitter. I do have a TikTok that I play, that I just basically post interviews and stuff with, and I think my TikTok is Mark Haynes 33. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll find all the same content on all platforms.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Make sure to follow Mark Haynes. Mark, I really appreciate your time, brother. It was an honor.
Tim, thank you, man. Like I said earlier, I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about myself. As the interviewers, we don't get this opportunity much. So I appreciate the fact that you even wanted to talk to me. And like I said, I love what you're doing. Keep going. Any way I can help you, feel free to reach out. Even if sometimes I respond slow. I'm a bad communicator. I need to improve on that. But you're never bugging. You're never bugging. So go ahead and reach out. Anything you need.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Have a blessed day.
You too, man. Take it easy, man.
You too.